It's documentary time on RTE1 now as we join Donegal Man of the Year, Father Thomas Doherty, parish priest of Dunfanaghy, for his own story and that of his parishioners down through the years, filling the fourpenny seats.
Oh, Father O'Flynn, you've a wonderful way with you. All of sinners are wishful to pray with you. All the young children are wild just to play with you. You've such a way with you, Father of it. Still, for all you've so gentle a soul, faith you've your flock in the grandest control. Checking the crazy ones, coaxing the easy ones, and lifting the lazy ones on with your stick. Here's a health to you, Father O'Flynn. Slunch and slunch and slunch again. Powerfulest preacher and tenderest teacher and kindliest creature in all Donegal.
In the early years of this century, Thomas Doherty was born in Ramelton, County Donegal. After school, he joined the priesthood. Upon ordination, he was sent to Scotland. After a few years there, he was recalled to his native Donegal. Today, Cannon Doherty is parish priest of Dunfanaghy. He has served the people of Donegal for more than 50 years. For all that time, his constant companion has been a small movie camera. With his camera, he has recorded the lives of his people. Filling the fourpenny seats is the story of Father Doherty and his people, the people of Donegal.
Yeah, well, it's a long time ago in Greenock, where I was at the time. I spotted a 9.5 millimeter projector on a window of a shop, and I went in and made inquiries and discovered that I could buy the thing and also films. Not only that, but that I could get a camera to take anything I wanted. So as I was running a big hall at the time, I thought it would be an idea to get action on the Clyde, like the launch of a ship, or actually got the Queen Mary coming down the Clyde on her maiden voyage. So that's how I started, and had good fun after that, taking people at weddings and whatnot and so forth. And I found that the people then enjoyed that, because the cinema wasn't vogue, as you know, but still there wasn't the same demand. And I also discovered that if people saw themselves on the screen, that had a great fascination. So I think that's how I started off. I was called back to Ireland, and I was sent to a curacy about 4 miles west of Dunfanaghy Parish, curacy called Mina Cross. And I continued there. And it was something of a sensation then, because there was actually no cinema within 30 miles of Dunfanaghy at that time. These shots were taken with a 9.5 millimeter machine or camera that I brought back from Scotland. Of course, they're all in black and white, and there was no colour at that time. So this is scenes in Donegal, the AOH procession coming down the town. The banners had to be lowered because of the banners across the street. And that's a steamer at Burton Port unloading stuff. And some of the workers unloading sand for the new addition of a building to the house at Mina Cross. And there's Paddy the Cook and Jimmy Frank O'Donnell standing on the pier. And some of the workmen that I don't private night at the moment, but they were all in on the act. And Mrs. Sweeney of Meena Cross and some of the people around Meena Cross doing their daily chores, like digging the potatoes and cutting the corn, cutting it with a hook, as you see. And again, threshing, and that was done by flails, 2 men walloping all the time. Hard work on a hot day, but still it had to be done because they needed the straw for the winter time, and that's Corny Brennan of Meena Cross. The late Corny Brennan, I'm told, he's dead since. And I think the district nurse came on the scene. She did, because one of the workers got a cut finger and she fixed it up. The next shot is a nephew of mine. He's now Father Tommy Coburn. He's parish priest in Cheadle, Birmingham diocese. And he was then, as about 4, I think, or 5, he used to come out with me when I was fishing. And these other shots were taken at a gala or a regatta down at Burton Port. Some people bathing off the pier. It's all taken in black and white. Of course, later on, we were able to get colour, which enhanced the show. Here again, we're back in Dunlow, fair day, and a shot taken up near the barrack, looking down the main street. Mulhern's corner pub there at the entrance to Dunlow, and Mrs. McGowan, she was then Louis Sweeney in the centre there, talking to some of the youngsters. She belonged to the hotel, Sweeney's Hotel. Some of the habitations at that time, they're all gone now. And there's the district nurse again on her rounds from Dunlow. Cutting turf. That was a very severe, hard job. Not only the cutting, but the handing them out from one to the other and spreading them. And non-stop. Very hard, grueling day. And very little pay for that. But the people needed them for the winter time. They needed the fire, heat. And it had to be done, and they just availed of every good day they could get to. And this is a couple of gentlemen from Dunlow out shooting, Father Joe Sweeney, the Columban Fathers on the right, and myself on the left, and Willie Sweeney of the Sweeney's Hotel in the centre. They're out shooting rabbits, and I joined them. Father James McLaughlin and Bishop McNeely at Gardahorrock. And Father McGlinchie, later on parish priest of Ramelton. Another scene in Dunlow, and our star is still in the picture. More bands from the neighbouring districts all gathered in and presented a nice spectacle on a day like that. The army came to me, well, the Rock Hill branch, came to me in Letterkenny and asked me would I make a film of the blessing of the colours down in his show in Carndona. And all the companies of LDF were to meet in Carndona. So I went down and saw the priest, Father McClune, was with me. And he gave me the films and I slipped them into the camera and took what I could. The march past, the blessing of the colours and all that. And Bishop Farren was then a new young bishop at the time. So again, having tied that out up together, I began to show it all over in his show, and crowds came out and thought it was terrific. Oh yes, I got word from the military censor to come to Dublin at once that they objected to my taking films of certain aspects of the country that might be value to the enemy. This was during the war. And the only thing I could think of value to the enemy was the old railway line from Convoy to Letterkenny, narrow gauge, with installations like McQuinn and Glencairn, because at that time the Germans were concentrating on Ham, or Ham was being bombed, and it's a great railway centre, so I couldn't think of any other thing that our military would object to, but he didn't think that I should be funny about it, and he said I could get 20 years in jail. I said, well, I'll probably get a parish when I come out. That annoyed him too. And anyway, it was a matter for the minister, so I had to wait until the minister made up his decision. And the decision was that he warned me not to do any more filming of... I should have said that the censor wanted to know who ordered these films, and I told him the military. And he wanted to know what military. I told him I'd tell that in court. So I didn't press that any further, and I was warned by the minister then not to do any more of anything that might be advantageous to the enemy. I never knew what that could be. Yes, well, that's the scenes in Carndona at the inspection of the LDF, as they were then called. You had sections from all over Carndona, and Malin-na-Hare and Moville, Dunfanaghy, Carndona. This was all taken in Carndona, and they all marched past. Bishop Farn was then a very young bishop. Well, I was taking a lot of scenery at the time, and Father McLoone was staying with me, and I got a notion that if I got him to sing the Hills of Donegal, and I took parts where I could motor him around, for instance, heather on the mountain, heather on the hillside, and he could reach for the heather, and the sunshine over all, and as westward I'd be going, he could point to the west, down over Mahary Bay and so forth. And then on to Killinure and beautiful views there round by Bloody Foreland, and ending up with a lovely shot of Errigal, the hills of Donegal, so dear to me. And he had a lovely tenor voice. So I got him to stand behind the screen in the hall. Nobody knew this, of course. But they saw him on the screen, and naturally they thought that I had made a talkie. And so I suppose that was the first talkie made local, or in Donegal, or anywhere else. That was in 1937. That went down a bomb because, you see, the sight of him on the screen and the gestures and the scenery behind and the voice and all sounded terrific.
Would I be going across the ocean blue to wake again the happy years that long ago I knew, that long ago I knew. Oh, hills of Donegal, to me you ever call in
scenes were taken at Creasla Station, the only station on the line that was beside the town. And that is a shot of Mr. Delapid Station. And Alan McClune opted to drive the train then right on to Crawley or Burtoncourt, where the station master there, John McBride, met us. In the meantime, on our way to the viaduct, we had the co-op lorry, Paddy Mike Paul driving it. It was taken crossing the bridge at where the log cabin is. And now the viaduct where the tragedy occurred in 1925, and part of the train was blown over. 5 people were killed. And that's looking down towards where ours is death, Drumnara School, and the road leading into Creasla. Here's the end of the line at Burtonport, or coming near it rather. That's the excitement at Kilmacrennan Station. And then we did some shunting at Creasla. So this is the passengers we had with us. Mr. O'Neill was the station master, and that's looking down towards Ards Priory and Atlantic Drive. And a shot of the countryside around Creasla. Way out on the horizon, you have Torrey Island. And a close-up view of Errigal and the mist over the top. Poison Glen, or Dunlewy as it's known. And again another shot of Errigal. Again with the snow cloud, if you like. And that is actually the end of the train from Derry to Burton. The late Dr. Cannon of Dunlow met us at the station. And Charlie John McBride, station master, hail and farewell. Yes, and to make up a show, I used to have to cover all events like weddings and events of every kind. So this is a wedding in Strabane with Swan and Barman marrying Gertie Devine, and a lot of the Strabane people might recognize themselves. There's a parish priest, Canon Smith, I think his name was, from Swan and Bar, and Father Faulkner, and again the parish priest of Swan and Bar, and Bernard Devine, and Joe Devine, and Mimi Devine, and a lot of other Devines. So some of the Strabane people might recognize themselves there. So many years ago. Well, the ESB came to Convoy, and that was a sensation. Because up to then we were using wind chargers and batteries and whatnot for the hall. Down in the background there, and it was a great sensation when the ESB decided to give the power to Convoy Mill and then extend it to the village. These are the mills, and we got eventually from the mills we got it to the village, and we were able to run shows and pictures and all that in the hall, which was a godsend. And these are some of the workers in the mills. And the older Convoy people recognize these ladies and gents. At that time, the mills employed about 350 people. And it was a godsend for that village and for the neighbouring districts at the time. A very happy lot, and it's finished article being sent off to Australia and Canada and elsewhere. You see, there was a tax at that time on anything over 4p. And to make any profit at all, you had to charge about 9p or 1 and 3, 1 and 6. And even then you didn't make much profit because you had to pay for carriage and all that. So I couldn't afford to pay this tax, which was a bit exorbitant, and The only sum you could charge would be 4p at the door, without tax. So I went up to Dublin to see could I arrange to book films at that price, and none of them were horrified when I heard about that. And I told them I'd have to close down, but one film renter came to my rescue, and he gave me 50 films at a set price if I'd give him 25 shillings a film. So it was up to me to get the 25 shillings, and I found that if the hall was packed at 4p, I had about £5. However, I put on that, and the people came. But before they came, I told them that it was nearly impossible to run it at the 4p, but I'd put a table inside, and if anybody wanted to put any donation on the table, that was their business. So they did, and as a matter of fact, I was very, very comfortable, but I wasn't so comfortable with the revenue crowd because they came and tried to prove that I was actually charging more than the 4p. But however, they never could prove that.
Stop paying high grocery prices. Shop Red Label. Pound after pound, Red Labels are up to 25% cheaper. Red Label quality products available at independent shops and supermarkets.
These are the natural ingredients for something very familiar. And these for something you wouldn't expect. New Vitalite sunflower margarine from Kraft. New Vitalite is wholesome and good for all the family, just like bread itself. But bread doesn't yet come in a container that keeps it perfectly fresh. New Vitalite sunflower margarine, as wholesome as your daily bread.
Oh, when you see how cleverly we design our TV, Ferguson is the one you will choose.
Robots come and go, they run the show. It's all precision. Every set is checked until it's correct in A1 condition.
And then we nurse it,
We rehearse it,
and then give out the news that Ferguson gave up to the news.
And the reds, yellows, greens, browns, purples, pinks. Ferguson. No one is more switched on.
And all because the lady loves Cadbury's milk tray.
Farmers, reduce your losses. Dose now with Flucazole, Fluke and Worm Drench from Chanel Veterinary Loughrea.
Good-looking cooking with the Warwick Deluxe in new Dublin gas showrooms now.
Banahans Clock Jordan, sole distributors of Roley toys. Full range of Christmas goods on display. Trade only.
I acquired little field opposite the house for a site for the school that is now built there, and it cost me an awful amount of money, £105. So the parishioners got together and they decided that they would set potatoes, and it was all a free venture. All the money, I bought the seed and they set the funds, and we reaped the profit. And this is some scenes taken of the men who turned out on a voluntary basis in those days, and that's wheat they grew one year, and after the potato there, Jim McCafferty and the tractor. And then the harvesting and all, the Gallaghers and the McCaffertys and all the others joined in to make it a profitable venture, I can tell you. So in a couple of years, or 2 or 3 years, we had the whole thing paid for. And today now there's a beautiful school erected there on the site of the land that we bought for a fabulous amount of £105. Seemed a shocking price for an acre of land at that time. But when these people there, Jerry McCafferty and a few others, put their backs into it, there was no trouble about the profit. Threshing, they all burned up the stuff that wasn't needed, and you see the big evening they had then, and we had tea in the hall and all that sort of thing, and celebrations afterwards. A great spirit among the people of Conway at that time, and still is there, because they were all very united. Lovely people, and enjoyed doing that type of thing. So these were shots that they were glad to see in the hall afterwards. Part of a program that I ran for about a couple of hours, been weddings and scenery. I remember one time in Convoy, I was there alone. It was a very hot night, and I had to run 2 machines. And it was my shirt and trousers when the projection door opened, and this chap came in and he says, I'm from Derry. That's all, yes. He says, I'm a 3rd operator down in the certain cinema in Derry. And I was up with people in the village, and I came up to see your show. And it's very good. I like the sound, and it's a good show, he says. Yes, I try to do as best I can. Oh, it's good. Very good. Is it the priest runs the show? It is. Oh, what does he pay you? As a matter of fact, he gives me nothing at all. Well, I'll tell you what you'll do, he says. I'll take your name now and I'll get you to join the union. You should join the union. I'll get your name now and I'll put you into the union. And that's terrible. We have priests in Derry running St. Colum's Hall, and they wouldn't dream of treating a man like that. So he went out then and went off, and I didn't know anything more until the girl down below in the office told me, Nellie O'Neill, that he called with her and he said to her, what sort of a priest have you here? And she said, he's all right. Father Doherty. Is that her name? Yeah. He's all right. How could he be all right? And the man up there sweating at 2 machines, not giving him a halfpenny. And he didn't know what he meant first. And then she says, what man? The man that's running the machines up there. She says, that's Father Doherty. So then the door opened again in the projection room, and he came in and he says, looked at me for a long time and says, I came up to apologize, Father. What about? Said I. Oh, I didn't know you were the priest. Why didn't you tell me? He said, you didn't ask me, and I was busy at the machines. And I'm glad you came back. I want to join the union. Oh, no, he said, for God's sake. It'd be terrible to, no priest will get into the union. So off he went again, disappointed. Paul McDyer, the curate in Glencullen Pewter, ran a show and included sheepdog trials and pony jumping. And they had the Taoiseach De Valera down to open it, so crowds gathered there, and I went down with the camera to take shots here and there, I think. We have Maura O'Donnell of Mount Charles comes in there. If not, she's not riding, she's holding a pony somewhere around, because I remember taking her at the time. These are trotting competitions, and some of the spectators. The jumps weren't too high, but it was a thrilling day for the locals anyhow, and went off with a bang. And there's Maura O'Donnell now, and there's the great golfer. And passing through the country, I stopped at the hospital in Castlereagh. It was then a tubercular hospital. There was some patients I knew there, and when I was there, I had the camera, so I thought I'd take some shots of the wards. And as you see, we have it in colour now because I kept the colour for the ladies, kept the black and white for the gents. These are some random shots of the wards, and some of the patients may recollect, then patients recollect those views again. I went back again to the hospital in Castlereagh and gave them a show, and they were all delighted. They're all here doing themselves up because they didn't know I was taking the film. I told them to get ready, and while they were getting ready, I began to shoot. I thought it was the better thing to do because now I'm back to black and white again, and probably all gents there, yes. All men. Doesn't come out so good as the colour for the ladies. However, they're all happy about it and didn't do them any harm, I'm sure. Some of them are up and getting on fine, and some of them were in for quite a while. But they're all very happy, and so are the nursing staff, and doctors and all. And we had a happy night later on when we all gathered in the hall, and again in the wards where some of the patients were bedridden, who wanted to see themselves as film stars. All that was a great sensation at the time. So from Castlereagh to Bunbeg is a long spell, but still it has a connection because here we had the Mass Radiography Unit Association bring their unit out to the islands to x-ray the people there, and this is land at the Bunbeg Pier, putting the unit on to go to Arnmore Island, where there's Dr. Eustace and his wife, who was then medical officer of health for the county. And the photographer there in the background was Coleman. This is a shot on Arnmore Island, where the natives all gathered together to be x-rayed, and some of them were a bit diffident about it, but the nurses and doctors proved that it was an easy enough thing to walk in one side and walk out the other. No trouble about it at all. No matter what show I had, I could pack the hall, of course, with a good show, but all I had to do was put up a note as local pictures during the week, and I could pack out. And no Hollywood show at that time could cope with the local stuff that I took, because the people were enamored, you see. They could come in there for 20 minutes and see themselves at the show, or see a big wedding that took place, and things of local interest, and they were terribly excited about that. And a pal of mine at that time, Father Glacken, recently Dean Glacken, deceased now, God bless him, he would come in and see himself standing beside a donkey at the show, and the crowd would go mad about that, and I would do a running commentary and say that the donkey was on the right. Well, in connection with that too, I used to take all sorts of things. This is the procession. I was a curate in Donegal at the time, and running the picture house, and this is the annual Corpus Christi procession. Started from the church, went down Water Street, along the river and up into the Diamond, where benediction was given, and then back again up the main street. And that's a view of all the people at that particular time. At the mid-50s, the end of the 50s. And that's the shot from a house in the Diamond looking down. First of all, the river was very low. It was a very good season that year. And I got a few shots of benediction on the Diamond from a house top. And Cannon Kelly was the parish priest. He's giving benediction there. Canon John Kelly. Letterkenny Cathedral, and the funeral in Letterkenny of the late Dr. McNeely, the bishop, Father Patsy Goddard and Father McCall leading. Eamon de Valera, Sean Lamass were there, and a view of the crowd with Cardinal Conway standing out there. And certainly at the graveside with Bishop, the late Bishop Farn of Derry in the foreground. It was taken in 1963. Archdeacon Deany is there too. Late Dr. Shields and Canon Mulroney present. I'm coming events like this. I was also glad to be able to get events like the mannequin parade that was held in Ballabafay by the house of McGinty the draper. In 1953 it was, and the girls came down from Dublin to show off all the different costumes, and Winnie Butler and Peggy Swan, and to mention a few of them. Winnie Butler's there on the right. And these shots were taken out at McGinty's house in Sonora the following day, because I hadn't enough light in the hall that night to take movies. So these are some of the Dublin mannequins showing their wares. And there's Michael McGinty in the background. Now to more modern, this is the new church in Creasna, designed by Liam McCormick and partners from Derry. And the contour of Muckish comes right into the contour of the church there, as you saw. This is the outside the baptistry, and the old bell that belonged to the old church down in Doe was brought up and is still in use, or hopes to be in a short time. This shot is taken from inside the sanctuary of the Blessed Virgin, looking out on Muckish and pastoral scene in front. And instead of a stained glass window, I thought that was sufficient. That's the proscenium and the altar, and the semicircular seats that are so very difficult to design. And Mr. McCormick assured me that he would never try another one again. But the site was rock, and it had to be built semicircular, and that was the outcome of the whole thing.
A long sort of sigh seemed to come over all as the waves hit the last bit.
Another of my activities in raising funds is a sort of a cabaret or running concerts. And here we have a sample of a night we had in the Shannon Hotel.
The priest met a girl in Creasna, and he says, "Maggie, how are you getting on?" "I'm not getting on at all. I've stopped praying." "Why did you do that?" "Well, I was praying for a husband for 3 years and I got none." Now, Maggie says, "You're doing the wrong thing. You're praying for yourself. Now, if you pray for other people, you'll always get what you want for yourself." "I didn't know that." "Well," he says, "I'm telling you." So that night, he says, "Dear God, I don't want anything for myself, but please send me mother a son-in-law." Hirohito was the Emperor of Japan. And these two lads from Belfast were fighting side by side, a Catholic and a Protestant. And there was a dole for anyone who could shoot a Jap. £5 for every Jap who could shoot. And on the first day, the Catholic lad made £50. He shot 10 Japs. Protestant lad says, "How do you do it?" "Well," he says, "I tell you what I do. I go out into the jungle, and when things are nice and quiet, I jumps up and I shouts, 'To hell with Hirohito.' Up pops a Jap, and I shoot him." 2 days later they met, and the Catholic lad says, "How did you get on?" "Ah," he says, "I didn't get on at all." "Why? Well, did you do what I told you?" "I did. When the jungle was nice and quiet, I jumped up and I shouts, 'To hell with Hirohito.' And a big Jap jumped up and he shouts, 'To hell with the Pope,' and I hadn't the heart to shoot him."
Father, you show your almighty power and your mercy and forgiveness. Continue to fill us with your gifts of love. Grant this through our Lord Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you in the Holy Spirit, one God, forever and ever. We believe in one God, Father the Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, of all that is seen and unseen. We believe in one Lord Jesus Christ, the only Son of God. When supper was ended, he took the cup. Again he gave thanks, praise, gave the cup to his disciples and said, "Take this, all of you, and drink from it. This is the cup of my blood, the blood of the new and everlasting covenant.
It will be said for you and for all men, so that sins may be forgiven. Do this in memory of me.
Now we've come to the end, and I hope you enjoyed the shots I've tried to take of Donegal people down the years. And all the people in this film tonight were from Donegal, except a few from Castlereagh. And I hope you got a bit of pleasure, as much pleasure out of it as I had in taking it. Men like Frank here, Frank Durnian and Dan McColgan and all the others. God bless you.